Hey folks, it's Asia again. I am your host of Speak On It with Asia. That'll be me. And today's episode is called Passionate But No Knowledge. So I don't know if you all have an idea of who I'm referring to, but I'm talking about AOC. Now I just finished watching her little speech that she gave at Bernie Sanders thing in New York. Before we even get there, I'm going to tell you what I thought when she first ran for office. Hi, Jerry. When I first heard that AOC was running for office, I will not lie. By that point, I had already been red-pilled. By that point, I was already conservative. But she was young. She was a New Yorker. I'm young. I am a New Yorker. So there were already things that she and I had in common. But now, being fair-minded, I didn't want to hold her accountable for the misdeeds of the Democrat Party before her, right? She's new blood. She's not guilty of the crimes the Democrats had committed, right? She was fresh. She was new. She was going to change the party. I know, I was dumb. I tried, though. I really wanted her to be better. I thought that at least new blood would try to, change the party or bring it back to what common sense we thought it had. But then as time went on, AOC started to sound more and more ignorant. I am woke now, Derek. Now I am. But still, right? I want to be fair-minded. I didn't think it was fair for her to hold her accountable for the decisions and the mistakes that the Democrats made. She was new. But then she got up there with all of this passion. We know she has the passion. Even Trump said that she got it. But what she doesn't have is knowledge, no sense of intellect. This is a college graduate here. And we put her in office. Well, I didn't. I didn't vote in New York. But I probably would have if I was out there. I would have been a conservative that voted for AOC simply because she was new blood. And then the more and more that she spoke, the more ignorant she sounded. She doesn't know anything about, the economy. She doesn't know anything about finance law. She doesn't know anything about, as far as her own state is concerned. I'm sorry. AOC, you are ignorant to the fact. And then when you get into office, you tuck yourself under people who are either as radical as you or more than. Then fast forward. Now we're at the, rally, the Bernie Sanders rally in New York. She said everything that we conservatives don't want. What do you mean that we need a public-owned education, a public-owned healthcare? No, I need to own my own things. If you want people to have freedom as far as their education is concerned, what happened to homeschooling? I don't have to put my money into this university if I feel like this university or this campus or this public middle school is going to radicalize my child. So I'm going to raise them at home. That was a thought. Why not push that? Why not? AOC, man, she's so passionate. And that's the problem with my generation. We're so passionate, but we have no knowledge. At least I take the time to, when people correct me when I'm wrong, I take it and I go do my studies. So now I'm knowledgeable. Why doesn't she do that? She makes millennials look bad. I'm not even going to front because she is a millennial. Just because she's in Congress doesn't change that. She is a millennial. You make us look bad. You do, AOC. You probably won't watch this. I've accepted that you probably won't. But let's be for real. You go on and on and on about socialism. You go on and on and on about freedom. You go on and on and on about how it's the government's job to give that to us. All kinds of wrong. Freedom was never something that the government gave. It was something that the people had to fight for. What history class were you taking? Freedom was always fought for. It was never just given. The problem with millennials, we take freedoms for granted because we've never had to fight for them before. Ever. I've never had to. I've never had issues with the police. I've never had issues with, systemic racism. I've never had issues at the workplace as far as misogyny was concerned. I never had any of those issues. So freedoms that AOC is saying that we don't have, we have. The opportunity, the equal protection under the law, I have all of those things. The problem with millennials, we take them for granted. But when you have people like AOC who don't know the difference between what it was like then and what it is like today, this is where we're at. You're right, Derek. She is an idiot. A whole idiot. Freedom was not something that was just given. The Constitution doesn't give rights. It simply acknowledges the fact that Americans are the children of God, the children of Christ, and we will be given the rights that he says we should have. It's called free will. But when you have a government that makes decisions as to what freedoms you can and cannot have, they start taking freedoms away from you. That's what socialism does. It takes stuff away. It takes your money away. It takes your property away. It takes all of those things away. I said in the episode last week that I had a colleague of mine that told me that socialism isn't a bad thing. Yes, it is. Where did you learn that it was a good thing? You're older than I am and you believe that socialism is a good thing. Why? Oh, well, because there's systemic racism. No, there isn't. There is just no support in certain communities. There's no hard work ethic in certain communities. You just have crime and more crime in certain communities. Black American communities, to be more specific. Don't tell me that if we had socialism, it would lift Black America from poverty. That is a load. AOC is pumping a load of crap into society simply because she thinks that we're going to follow it. That's passion with no knowledge. AOC is the perfect example. She gets into office. She has a union with Ilhan Omar. That is a whole other issue, a whole other episode, and we could talk about her a whole other time. But right now, this one is about AOC and the generation that she represents. Unfortunately, it's mine because I am a part of that said generation. But I'm going to make it clear to every millennial in this country, we cannot allow socialism. If you guys start agreeing with her right now, give her 30 years, and this woman will be the president of the United States. Why? Because she's already endorsing Bernie Sanders. Already, some people on the left are already willing to vote for Bernie Sanders and democratic socialism. She's obviously too young now. Give her 30 years. If we don't find a way to offset the socialist ideology mindset amongst my generation, guess what we're going to have? We're going to have an AOC for president. We will. Why? She's a woman, obviously, unless she decides that she's a trans man. She's Latina, identity politics. That's all the left needs. And she likes socialism. That's already going to make her a top candidate for the Democrats 30 years from now. Why? Because socialism has become mainstream. And it's probably because of her, for the same reason that I liked her. She was young, she was new blood, she was passionate. Passion is what's going to change the face of this country. Passion. We got to get ahead of this girl. I mean it. We got to get ahead of AOC. She's pumping poison. And my generation is eating it up. They are. Why? Because they live in their parents' basement. 9 chances out of 10, like Hillary Clinton wasn't lying when she called us basement dwellers. She wasn't. We were basement dwellers. It was either you were living in your parents' basement or they let you keep your old room. It was one or the other. You were living with your parents. You don't know what it means to strive for something of your own. You all want the fancy stuff. Your mindset goes to cars. Your mindset goes to travel. Your mindset goes to party, party, party. Not I'm going to get me a house. Not I'm going to prep for my retirement now. No one thinks like that. No millennial thinks like that. So when you have an AOC who says you should have everything that you say you want, but you don't ever have to work for it, we'll decide for you. Because what if I'm the millennial that actually wants to work for a living, that actually wants to put money into my retirement now, who actually wants to put money into a home for myself now? If I vote your way, you're going to take everything that I need to even strive for that kind of a success, accomplishment for myself. I don't want that. My parents told me if I want it, I can have it. I just got to work hard to get it. Why not those values? She said something at that rally. She said something about how we need principles, right? Principles of anti-racist principles, whatever the hell that means. We need a what did she say? Was it multicultural or multi-general or a gender? Whatever. It was a whole bunch of stuff. None of it was rooted in logic. Another problem with her, which is why I say no knowledge. She does not move in logic or in faith, for that matter. at all. She puts all of her faith in a system that she says is racist. I need y'all to hear what I just said, because that's the problem with a lot of lefties and a lot of people who like her. They claim that they don't like the government. They claim that they don't like the system for one reason, that it is racist. If you're gay, then it's anti-LGBT. But that's the same system that you want to give all the power to. What sense does that make? None. It makes no kinds of sense. People, she's just spewing a whole bunch of BS, and she's not selling it except for those who are tired of being broke, tired of working too hard. I was tired of being broke, but you know what I had to do? I had to go out there and work hard. Doesn't that make sense? If you want money in your pocket, go out there and work. Everyone's entitled to health care. Everyone's entitled to education. Everyone's entitled to housing. BS. No. Everyone is not entitled to that. Everyone is entitled to the opportunity to have all of those things. As far as education is concerned, people, if you want to be smart, do your own studies. You don't always have to be put into a school to become knowledgeable. You don't always have to go to college to become knowledgeable, because that's the education that they're referring to. They're not talking about grade school. They're not talking about pre-K. They're not talking about high school. They're not talking about any of those. They're talking specifically about college. Not everyone is entitled to that. You are entitled to a higher education of learning, but that is up to you, the individual, to strive for. And that's not necessarily mean you're putting money into a campus, into a university, or into a local college. It simply means get a library card, go to the library, and what is it that you want to study? Find yourself a tutor if that's what you want. If what you want is to just be more knowledgeable, you can do that for yourself. You do not have to ask other Americans to pay for it. You don't. How do I know that? Because that's what I do. That's what I do. I don't go to college. I don't expect other people to pay for me to go to college. I don't. Personally, when I did go, it was very liberal, but I was liberal at the time, so I didn't recognize it. But now, having been out of college and now that I'm a conservative, I feel like I dodged a bullet, because I felt like if I graduated, I'd come out radical. That's just a whole other side story. We can get back to that another time. What else does she say at that whole thing? Oh, she didn't want Mark Zuckerberg to make decisions for the people, right? The poor, the middle class. She didn't want Mark Zuckerberg to make those decisions. I'm assuming when she said Mark Zuckerberg, she's referring to all of the people who are wealthy as far as big tech companies are concerned. And I think really what she's talking about is breaking those down and giving the money of which that these companies make for themselves, right? And then divvying it up amongst the people. You know why that's ridiculous? Because if she was just doing her job in the House of Representatives, there might actually be some comprehensible legislation as far as these big tech companies are concerned in regards to better protecting our information, right? And how they make their money as to our data is concerned. Let's look at it this way. You're sitting on a gold mine and you are allowing Facebook to just take gold out of it. No fee, no nothing. We just allow them to do that. Do I believe that there should be legislation about how they're allowed to do that, or if I should be compensated as far as them going into my gold mine? Of course. Of course I think that. But that's just with comprehensible legislation. That isn't take the company away from them and then divvy up the shares amongst the American public. So now Mark Zuckerberg doesn't get to what? He built it. He didn't start off as a billionaire. He didn't. An AOC trying to perpetuate as if that he did is ridiculous. He did not start that way. Most billionaires don't start off as billionaires. Some start off as millionaires and become billionaires. Some start with absolutely nothing and become rich. But the way that AOC and Bernie Sanders want to run this country, it's not going to work. And these are the things that AOC isn't telling anybody. Yeah, we want to do socialism because we can break down these big companies. We can take the money away from the wealthy and we can give it to all of you. You know what I heard in that? I heard you're going to keep me from becoming wealthy. Because if you're already taking the riches from them, what's going to stop you from doing that to me? No one asks her that question. So what if I become rich? What if I become a billionaire? You're going to take that from me? How about, are you going to start taking money from the billionaire you're standing next to, AOC? You do know Bernie Sanders is wealthy, man, right? This is the same man who was asked by a Fox News town hall if he would be willing to send his check that he made from his own book to the public. Are you willing to give up your millions? You know what he said? Oh, no, and laughed it off. But now you want other billionaires to give up their wealth? You're a rich-ass man who doesn't want to give up his wealth, but you want other rich-ass men to give up theirs. What sense does that make? AOC, she still backed him. Why? Because he's the open socialist. He's open about it, at least. I can give him credit for that. He's open about it. Elizabeth Warren, not so much. She's a socialist who doesn't want to say she is. You just got to listen to her policies. But I digress. This is about AOC. She's ignorant. She knows nothing except for what's taught to her in that ridiculous Democratic caucus, which is nothing but hatred and more ignorance. The Democratic caucus, man, not one of you are doing your jobs. Not one of you are teaching her to know better. And that's what's so sad. That is what's the saddest, is that she's around all of these people who we know are intelligent. And yet you're reinforcing her ignorance. When it came to the Green New Deal, not one of them told her how this was not going to work. Not one of them did. She's still young. She still has a lot left to learn. She doesn't know that much about legislation. She doesn't know about our economy and how it works. She doesn't know any of that. It was your job to teach her. But no, you let her take the reins. What the hell for? She doesn't know any better. She does not. You know what they did? They gave a chef's knife to a 2-year-old. That's what they did. You gave a chef's knife to a 2-year-old, and now she's just running around the house with a dangerous weapon because, why? She's 2 and doesn't know any better. That is AOC. She doesn't know any better. And that's what was such a disappointment, because I feel like she's waste of potential in that office. She's a waste. You're one of the youngest people to ever get into Congress, yet you can't hold yourself accountable when you do something wrong. You can't accept when someone teaches you something because, oh, I'm a congresswoman, I know everything. Obviously you don't, because when you threatened which Trump son was it? Was it Don Jr. or Eric that she threatened with congressional subpoenas because he said something she didn't like? You are a congresswoman, a representative of the freedoms of which you're trying to take away, and yet you don't know what you did was wrong? That doesn't make sense to me. Why is she there? Why? Because so many people thought the way that I thought. They thought she'd be fresh, that she'd bring new blood. You're damn right, she did bring new blood. She did. She reinforced the socialist ideology. That's what happened. All the people who were all for socialism and who were over war, you know, the 70 hippie babies. All of them, they stopped being radical and in the streets and they became teachers. And what happened? They taught AOC not enough, not what she needed to know if she was going to run for Congress. She talked about how the people, you know, were entitled to a living wage. We are entitled to the opportunity to better our lives. The value of things have gone up. The value has gone up in society. So that means we either need to work harder or work smarter. Our generation needs to do that. You need to work smart. You want a place to live of your own, work smart. She's telling you, no, you can work. You just have to do a little bit amount of work and you'll still get $15 an hour, and we'll still provide you with low-income housing, and we'll still provide you with Medicaid for all. But all you got to do is just this amount of work and you can have it all. That's a load. That's bogus. That makes no sense to me, folks. I mean, when I was coming up, which isn't that long ago, I'm only 24 years old. My parents said I could have it all, but I have to work for it hard. Work hard and smart. I can't just expect everything to happen for me just because I'm 24 years old. I have to work for it. I have to pay my dues. Millennials, we get out there into the real world and we think we're owed riches. And she's the reason we think that. She is the reason we think that. She is. Dems are afraid of her. Oh, yeah, you are right, Jerry. I think they are afraid of her. I think they are, because she has an entire mainstream behind her. There's a mainstream of people, not the media, of people who really believe that. And it's really my generation, because they're the generation that are struggling right now. They're living in their parents' houses. They're the ones who don't know how to really come up with a plan so that way they can move forward in life. And when someone tells you you can have everything for minimal work, you have my generation who's never had to work at all in their lives. Go for that. That's what I think. They're bending to her. Nancy Pelosi, when that happened, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it when it happened. I couldn't believe that Nancy Pelosi bowed down to this chick when she's the one who was just completely inadequate and all kinds of wrong. AOC, I mean. Completely. This child needs to be put in her place by Nancy Pelosi. She was what I would consider, you know, the adopted matriarch of the Democratic Party. Put this child in her place. Let her know who is in charge. Tell her how things go. And if she refuses to get on board, move on. Isolate her. Put her on punishment. She's on timeout. Do that with her because she doesn't know any better. Teach her. Because personally, I thought AOC was going to be tucked under Nancy Pelosi and things were just going to be great. I can't. You have so many things. Oh, right. Global warming. Did you guys hear about Jane Fonda being arrested every Friday, or how many days she's getting arrested? And even the guy who played a prosecutor, mostly his career from Law and Order, he gets arrested for global warming or climate change. That's the thing. You have celebrities out there. For what? You guys are 2 days away from the grave. Why are you here protesting about climate change? You're not going to last as long as she's saying the planet has left. You need to stop. And the people who keep saying that we need to do something about the planet, let me make something very, very clear here. We are not meant to stay on this planet. Not as if, you know, we're going to move, we're going to, you know, go out, take a rocket ship anywhere. That's not what I mean. No, this is just a middle place. We are born, meant to die, and to move on. This planet will be here when the human race is not. It will change. It has changed. Over the centuries that this planet has existed, the planet will change. It will change. Should we treat it better? Well, of course we can. But America has done its job. You have all these people on the left saying that America is responsible for saving the whole planet, and we are not. That is a global initiative, and until the rest of the world can catch up with how America does everything, we're going to do our part, and we have. Trump said it when he addressed the nation at this, you know, in the House. He said it. We're doing better. That's all you can ask of this president, is to make sure that our footprint isn't as bad. And he's followed through. So we don't need nothing as stupid as the Green New Deal. Because let me get one thing straight here. I am a carnivore. I like my burgers. I like my steak. Hell, I even like my spaghetti, because who wants meatless spaghetti? This is what she wants, AOC. I like to travel as much as I can when I can afford to. You're going to tell me I can't take any planes? How are you getting around the country? AOC, how are you getting around? When you stop taking planes, when every Hollywood elitist stop taking planes, then come talk to the rest of this country about not taking one. Then we'll talk about it. With all these people saying all this crap and AOC in front of it, like she's the head of the Democrat Party. Yo, where's Nancy when you need her? Granted, Nancy Pelosi we have our own problems with her. She does her own, we have our issues with her already. We do. But you are Mama Bear in this case, and you need to put this child in check, because her behavior is just that. She's acting like a child. She doesn't know any better. She doesn't know what she's saying. No evidence to back it up, but she's filled with passion. She's filled with passion, but no knowledge. She's ignorant as all hell. Yet you guys give her the microphone to spew it. When they themselves need to hold her to account, they don't. When they themselves need to correct her on her ignorant statements, they don't. But let me get one thing straight here. When I say something wrong, I need someone to clarify it with me. Tell me that I was wrong. Because how am I going to get better if I'm still stupid? How am I going to become smarter if I'm stupid still and refuse to become intelligent? We have a woman who thinks that she's done learning and she's in office. She's only what, 30, 31 years old? You're a grown ass woman. So when people like Candace Owens tell you that you don't know any better, that you need to figure it out, yeah, go figure it out. Because here's the thing, right? It doesn't matter how any of the Democrats, AOC specifically, are feeling about Trump, conservatives, hell, even capitalism. Their feelings are relevant. Our feelings, as far as capitalism are concerned, those don't matter. Feelings don't matter. Logically, capitalism works. Logically, if I do the work, I can make money. Logically, if I'm smart about my finances, I might be able to get my house. Not let me go buy that fancy car. Not let me go travel the world and come back home broke and staying with my parents. Because that's a problem with a lot of my generation. They save all this money not to move, not to better themselves, but to travel the world. Yet you come here bitching and moaning about not having health care, not having a living wage. All that money you just saved, all that hard work you had to put in to save that money, you just wasted. Why? Well, because you came home and AOC said that the government will give everything to you for free. Let me be clear. They don't mean the American millennial. They don't, because I'm in student loan debt. I am. I went to school for a semester, but that semester left me $8,000 in debt. That one semester. But they're not paying for us, American millennial babies. They're not paying for us for health care. Granted, I'm 24, so I have 2 years on my parents' health care. After that, you really think they're going to give me the benefit of the doubt? No. I have to find a job that's either going to provide my health care or make sure I'm doing what I have to do so I can afford my own. Why? Because I don't want no damn Medicare. I don't. I know how crappy that insurance is. You don't do anything really good for me. How do I know that? Because I know people who are using it and it doesn't really work for them. Not unless you're trying to get put on benefits. You're going to a program that's going to help you get benefits, help you get housing. I don't need any of that. I need health insurance for my health when I turn 26. I don't need Medicare for all for you to help me get into low-income housing, because really that's all I see it being used for. I don't see anyone really using it for their actual health. I see it to use as a way to game the system. Medicare for all, it's a load of crap. And yet we have my bosses who run down to Washington, lobbying for Medicaid for all. That's a whole other subject. AOC doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't. She spent like 20 minutes at the Bernie Sanders rally just by herself, just talking about all the stuff that America would be willing to give everyone that came into this country, legally or not. But then said how New Yorkers are the ones hurting from policies like this. Is she for real? Did she forget how she kicked Amazon out because she didn't want to make a deal? She chased them out of New York. And the very people whose lives she hurt from not assisting in keeping the jobs in New York are the very people who were there rooting her on and rooting for socialism. Personally, if I was running as a Democrat, I would not want AOC's endorsement. I wouldn't, because anyone who has her endorsement, you're not beating Donald Trump. Let's just call a spade on that. Bernie Sanders will not ever beat Donald Trump, even if he becomes a candidate. Why? Because you allowed yourself to be endorsed by AOC. I don't know if he was endorsed by the rest of the squad. I really don't. If he was, you're definitely not beating Donald Trump, because conservatives have an issue with the way that Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar think. The other one, I keep forgetting her name because she's so quiet until she feels like the whole squad has been threatened. But that's for them to really figure out if they're going to endorse or not. With Ayanna Pressley, I think is her name. AOC is the dangerous one, more so, because she has the potential to really get somewhere in her career, whereas Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, not so much. Those women know what they're doing. They're not just passionate with no knowledge. No. They're very intelligent women, very smart, intelligent women. They know what they're doing. AOC, No, she's playing as she goes because she has no idea how to do this. But she's young. She's filled with life. She, fills the Democrat void that they've left for so long and for so many years. And because they've dropped the ball, this is what happened. You've let a child take control of your household. I'm not a Democrat, but I'm going to this is my honest opinion of the Democrats and AOC. You've allowed ignorance to take over your home. And you've allowed her to dictate how things are going to go. Where are the adults in this caucus? Where are you? Where are you? Where is the common sense? No, you spent so many years fighting each other and trying to impeach Donald Trump on bogusness that she and others felt like you were ineffective. She gets in there and says to your faces that you're ineffective, that you just did nothing for 2 years. And then she gets there and she says, socialism is the way to solve all of our problems. Bernie Sanders was right. We need to do it his way because capitalism put a bigot in the office. Capitalism is why the Democrats aren't doing anything for us. Capitalism is why an entire generation feels financially stagnant and feels like they have no hope and no way to move forward. This is what happens when parties forget to do what they're supposed to do. Not even so much parties, right? Public officials. Because I hate calling our public officials politicians. I hate doing that. It means that they must play the game of politics. We didn't hire you to play a game. We hired you to legislate. AOC is a politician. Why? Because she doesn't know what she's doing when it comes to legislation at all. And most of these mofos in office don't. Most of them are filled with passion and no knowledge. I was just talking about this earlier, sometime this week, actually. I want to say I was doing an interview with Paloma Paloma for Trump at this point. And I told her AOC was a disappointment. She's a waste of millennial spirit and energy. She should have kept that in bartending. Why? Because you don't need to be smart to give somebody a cocktail. You don't. You want to talk about how you weren't able to afford housing or education on your, low income that you were getting from your boss. You worked as a bartender. Your wages were tips. You went to school for one thing and it didn't get you the job in something that you knew you needed in order to move forward in life. You didn't. It wasn't until you became outraged with the Democrats and decided that you were going to run for office. But before she got there, you were a bartender. Understand something. Bartending, though you can make a whole bunch of money depending on where you're located, because bartending isn't always going to make you a whole bunch of money unless you're in one of those big, flashy clubs, right? She's in a bar. You're making money off of tips. Why do you think that's going to pay for health care? Why do you think that's going to pay for the way of life that you want to live? Why do you think that? Bartending is not going to do that. It is not. You need to strive for better. Teach that to the generations. Don't tell them that they don't have to work hard anymore. Don't tell them stuff as that they're going to get everything free even if they don't work anymore. Don't do that. Don't do that. And that's all she preaches. And Bernie Sanders just allows her to. Why? Because he opened the floodgate. He opened the door. And she walked through it. And a whole bunch of millennials who don't know any better followed her. Why? Because she found a way to make Bernie Sanders' old-ass message young and sexy and enthusiastic and trendy. Socialism is trendy now. Why? Because you put a young, hot Latina on top of the message. As awful and as racist people want to say that might be, it's true. It is true. Because who are the ones that are at home watching the politics happen when they're not working? Millennials. We're the ones. So of course we're going to watch how she comes up. Of course we're going to listen to what she says because she makes millennials feel good. Look, we got one in the office. We got one into Congress. That's how they're feeling. And so they watch her, love her, and they start to idolize, idolize her ideology. They start to agree with it. Why? Because she made it appealing. She made it sexy. That's what she did. Capitalism, oh no, it's only bigots like capitalism, only racists like capitalism, only homophobes like capitalism. You know what millennials need to see? They need to start seeing a lot more people start talking about how capitalism raises them out of the gutter. How capitalism can allow them to move forward in life. I am a capitalist. I believe in capitalism. I know that the little money that I make at this job is not going to be enough to pay, my mortgage when I get one. It's not going to be enough. I'm aware of that. But that doesn't mean I want socialism. That just means, how am I going to turn my little money into more money? Investments. So why not talk about how we need to start teaching people how to turn little money into big money? Start teaching people about self-sufficiency. Start talking to people about creating businesses. Start incentivizing people to do these things. Don't tell us you're going to create a system that takes all of our stuff away. Because why try to become a millionaire if you're telling me you're going to keep me from becoming it anyway? When all of the millennials that I know, all of them want to be rich asses before they're 30. You all want to be rich before you're 30, but this woman is saying she won't. She's taxing all of the rich. So why become rich in the first place? So she can take 90% of your money? And then you're broke anyway? Why? Why encourage them to go for some things that you know you're going to keep them from having? What is the point? I want to be a millionaire. I want to have my first $1 million by the time I'm 30. That's what I want. Most millennials my age want that. Not many of them willing to work for it. Just a few. I think out of the 5 that said that to me over the course of time, only 2 mean it. That's my twin sister and a friend of mine, and I won't give you her name. They're actually willing to do the work. They're learning the skills that they need to actually be the millionaire that they're trying to be by the time they're 30. They're actually doing what they need to be doing. I'm actually doing what I need to be doing. But if you have people like AOC telling me that I become a millionaire, you're going to tax me 90%, why do I go out there to try to be a millionaire anyway? Why be productive in the first place? If you're telling me that everything I earn from it, you're going to take away from me. And that was the whole thing. Bernie Sanders' whole campaign rally in New York. That's all it was. Free this, free that. We're going to take this away from this person, take this away from the wealthy. We're not going to allow we're not going to allow the rich to dictate to us what we can and cannot have. You're going to allow private businesses and private owned citizens to dictate their own lives. Why? Because the government will. That is scary. Did anybody read the book Animal Farm? And that's the thing, right? Animal Farm is one of my favorite books. We all read it as a freshman in high school, depending on what school you went to. And that whole book just laid out socialism and how the Soviets ran the nation. Read that book. Watch the movie. And tell me that those pigs in it was not AOC and Bernie Sanders. That's not a racist slur. In the book and in the movie, the pigs were the ones that were running everything. They were the socialists. And if you fought back against it, they were sending animals to the slaughterhouse. They took a grown dog's puppies from her and raised them to be monsters. So that way, when they did start to, riot and fight back against the rest of them, they would turn her own puppies loose on her own friends and family. This was Animal Farm. The concept of socialism and communism was all up and through it. Read that book. And if you don't want to read it, watch the movie. There is always an alternative to people who don't want to read the book. I read the book and watched the movie. Both hit it right on the nail. Talking about socialism and communism, I'm excited for the next Wonder Woman movie. And personally, I think her bad guy should be AOC and Bernie Sanders. Why? Because they're socialists. And socialism is what destroys nations. We cannot allow AOC to keep pushing all this negativity and all this ignorance into society and then not combat it with something else. There is no one my age on this side, on the conservative side, in office right now. And until we have one of those, until we get there, I'm hoping there's so much more of, millennial blood, young blood, new blood to kind of put through the party, to combat her. I can't wait for the first day. If AOC is still in office and we finally have a millennial conservative in there, the back and forth will be phenomenal. Why? Because there'll be somebody in there finally willing to talk back to her. Everyone plays a nice game. Everyone says she's misinformed or she didn't give you all the facts. Call it like it is. She's ignorant. She doesn't know any better. You have all this passion and no knowledge. You don't take the time to know better. Yet you spew all this crap. Gosh, that whole thing. I mean, it was 2 hours long. I couldn't get through it. I just couldn't. I watched her 20 minutes, and even that was hard. Even that was hard. This is what we have to go through sometimes when you're dealing with ignorance. And we have to teach wisdom to stupid. You have to do that. But if no one is actually doing it on her side of the aisle, then what are we waiting for? Somebody got to get in there. Someone has to just take her seat from her. I hope whoever's going up against her in New York, I can't wait for that debate, because the last one she had against the Democrat incumbent, he didn't even show up. So he allowed her to just grandstand and just go in on him. And they all loved her because of all this passion. She didn't say anything except he didn't even show up for this debate and I'm here. She won. That's how she won. Her opponent didn't show up and she got to grandstand. And that's why she won. Not because she actually told them her ideas. All she did was agree with them on their problems and say, but I'm here. And she won. Nah, we need someone in her seat. And if not in her seat, someone across the aisle to go in on her. Because I would target her rhetoric. I would target her BS and, ignorant policies that she suggests. I'd go in like I'm going in now. We can't keep allowing her to just go across the country and saying stuff like that and no one's combating it. I swear, every time she makes a campaign stop with Bernie Sanders, I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to pick whatever stupid saying she says and do a whole episode on it. That's what I'm going to do. Every time she does a rally with Bernie Sanders, anytime she gets out there in the media, we're going to pull the ignorance from the video, and we're going to tell you why it's ignorant. That's what I'm going to do. Because we need to know that what she's saying is a bunch of hogwash, stocko, a load, because that's what it is. Again, I say it, she is filled with passion, but no knowledge. I'm filled with passion, but I'm an intellectual, so I want to learn more. If I get something wrong, I want somebody to tell me that I'm wrong and then teach me what's right. That's the only way I'm going to learn any better. I am someone who would rather not be the smartest person in the room. Because really, let's be clear. If I was the smartest person in the room, that's sad. That's really sad. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to learn from my surroundings. I want to learn from the adults around me. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. AOC is someone who believes she knows everything, that she's this intelligent adult woman, and thinks that she can be in a room where she's the smartest person in the room. And what's sad is that most of the time, that is the case. And that's very, very sad. Because if she's the smartest person in the room and I think she's ignorant, then that tells you who she surrounds herself with. Or you have a bunch of people around her who are probably smarter than she is, but they dumb themselves down. Nancy Pelosi. You bow down to the young chick because she was young and everybody wants her. No, my generation don't really go out there anyway. Plain and simple. That's all the time I have for you guys. I'm heated, but we will talk some more. Like I said, she does anything ignorant, I got you. We're going to go out and do more episodes of these simply because we can't allow any more ignorance to be pumped and our generation just soaking it up simply because they don't want to work hard. That's my time. I'm Asia Branch, your host of Speak On It. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'm listed as Mind Out, Mind Up. You can find some more of my episodes on Mamu TV YouTube channel, because that is mine. And you can just, friend me on Facebook, because you can find me. Have a good one, and talk to all of you later.